His lectures are arranged accordingly, and our first speaker is none but Dr. Professor P.C. Manoria, who happens to be past national president of CSI, API, ICC, and past dean of ICP and ICMU. Uh, He's past chairman of Hypertension Council of Asian Pacific Society of Cardiology and past vice president of SARC Cardiac Society. He was awarded Lifetime Achievement Award during the WCC PC 2008 by none other than by Bharat Ratna Honorable Shri APJ Abdul Kalam. Special award in cardiology by AACIO 2011 at New Orleans, USA. Mega Multi-Speciality Award during the Multicon 2018 organized by the International Board of Medicine and Surgery, USA 2018. He is a Master Teacher Award uh, winner in Indian College of Physicians in 2019. And another very important achievement is Netaji Oration Award by APCON 2002, Award of Excellence in Academics, alumni of PGI Chandigarh 1997. He got Dhanvantari Award and Simicon 97, lot of awards, and was of course organized. He has organized several national and international conferences for last 40 years of his practice, including the first World Congress on Cardio Metabolic Medicine in 2019 at Mumbai. He has edited 33 books and 64 publications in various journals, has delivered more than 500 lectures in various national and international conferences. Sir is director of Manoria Heart and Critical Care Hospital at Bhopal and former professor and head of the Department of Cardiology at GMC Bhopal. He is honorary physician of His Excellency Governor of Madhya Pradesh. I request Dr. P.C. Manoria, sir, to speak on his topic, which is the combination drugs in management of the hypertension. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. At the outset, I'd like to thank the Ampure Pharmaceuticals for inviting me to this wonderful CAB program. All of us know tomorrow is World Hypertension Day, and the slogan is very enchanting this year: measure your blood pressure, control it, and live longer. All of us know the last couple of years has witnessed spectacular advances in the field of hypertension, both in terms of enhanced understanding and in the availability of a panoply of therapeutic options. And fixed dose combination in hypertension is a new weapon for BP control and has been recommended by all guidelines. Whenever we use fixed dose combination, we have better adherence, better control of blood pressure, lesser decontinuation rates, lesser side effects, and I'll show you it also improves the CV outcomes. Now, when we look at the issue as to which is the biggest global cause of mortality, the answer is hypertension, hypertension, and hypertension, and therefore hypertension demands special focus and attention. Although there is a difference in the definition of hypertension by various guidelines, if you look at the ESC 140 by 90, ACC 130 by 80, but all guidelines have unanimous recommendation for the target for BP control. It is 130/80, less than 130 by 80 by all guidelines. And the blood pressure should never be decreased to less than 120 or less than 170, less than 70, because this is associated with increased mortality and morbidity. Now, why control of blood pressure is so important? All of us know that if you control your blood pressure, it results in decrease in the stroke, which is the commonest cause of disability, 35 to 40%, myocardial infarction, 20 to 45%, heart failure, 50%. And what is very important to remember, even minor fluctuations in blood pressure translates into great benefits or harm in the natural history of the patient, so that every 2 millimeter decrease in diastolic blood pressure reduces CVD by 6%. Every 2 millimeter decrease in systolic pressure results in 7% reduction in death from ischemic heart disease and 10% reduction in stroke. And this is, again, you can see a meta-analysis: 2 millimeter decrease in systolic blood pressure, 7% reduction in IHD, and 10% reduction in stroke. Now, why this happens, that if your blood pressure reduces by 1 or 2 millimeter, it translates into big CV risk reduction. This is because every 1 or 2 millimeter rise or fall in blood pressure is very relevant, and it translates into big transformation in CV morbidity, because the heart beats 70 times in a minute, 4,200 times in an hour, and roughly 1 lakh in 24 hours. So that if your blood pressure is decreased by 2 millimeter, every day 1 lakh times this 2 millimeters decrease in blood pressure will be transmitted to your vascular system. And that is the reason even minor deflections in blood pressure are of great importance. But the big issue is, why small percentage of hypertensive patients have their blood pressure control? If you look at the statistics, 1/10 of rural, 1/5 of urban Indian hypertensives have their blood pressure in control, despite the fact that we have very powerful antihypertensive drugs, but the control rates are dismal. And there are several reasons. Hypertension is an asymptomatic disease in vast percentage of patients. And sometimes you may make an asymptomatic patient symptomatic due to side effect. And therefore, the patients are reluctant to take drugs. Lifelong treatment, financial implication. And what is also very peculiar is that discontinuation does not produce immediate harm, and therefore the patient is not very compliant. And another very important reason is, it is the number of pills, which is also a very important determinant of compliance and control of blood pressure. You can see in this study, if the patient is receiving 3 pills, then there is 74% less likely to be adherent. And if your adherence is poor, your blood pressure will never be controlled. Now, when we look at the issue of monotherapy or free combination or single pill combination, you can see, if we look at the response rate, it is low with monotherapy, but it is high with single pill or free combination. Dosage simplicity is simple with monotherapy, complex with free combination, but it's simple because there's only 1 pill. Titration flexibility is high with monotherapy when you use multiple drugs, but medium with a single pill because the combinations are fixed. Tolerability is very high with single pill combination, and so also is the compliance, and cost is medium, and the blood pressure is always better controlled if you have a single pill combination. Now, when we look at the ratio of the observed to expected incremental BP lowering effects of adding a drug or doubling the dose according to the drug class, you can see adding a drug from another class will produce less reduction in blood pressure compared to adding a drug from other will produce more reduction in blood pressure compared to doubling dose of the same drug. And all of us know combination of 2 drugs as initial treatment strategy is associated with greater chance of achieving BP control than monotherapy, as you can see here. Now, if you are adopting a policy of fixed dose combination, the adherence is increased, as you can see in this study. The adherence is roughly increased by 24%, or 29%, 19%, 26%, or 24%. And fixed dose therapy, when compared with free equivalent combination, is also associated with better medical adherence, as you can see in this slide. And treatment initiation with drug combination is also associated with lesser discontinuation rates than the initial monotherapy, regardless of the fact whether the drugs were given separately or in a single pill format. The issue is why combination therapy is so mandatory in our day-to-day practice. If you look at the various trials, monotherapy is not enough, it's not self-sufficient to control blood pressure in the long run. And majority of hypertensive patients in the long run, as you can see in these trials, will require 2 drugs, 3 drugs, or even more. And therefore, initiating drug therapy with combination therapy and not monotherapy is the way to treat hypertension. Now, what are the characteristics of an ideal fixed dose combination? It should be very efficacious, additive or synergistic blood pressure reduction. It should be supported by clinical trials, and the side effects must be less. Potential for wide availability and affordability, and safe and efficacious in diverse demographic settings, race, ethnicity, and so on. Daily dosing formulation, and it is also preferred that you have a sport tablet, multiple doses, which could permit spring tablet dosing and easy titration. Now, what are the principles of combination therapy? You have to realize that blood pressure depends on cardiac output and the peripheral vascular resistance. If the cardiac output increases, as happens in sympathetic stimulation, your blood pressure would increase. If the peripheral vascular resistance increases, then also your blood pressure will increase. And sometimes you have a combination of increased cardiac output and total increase in the peripheral vascular resistance. So how do we decide the combination therapy? Now, there are various ways of selecting combination therapy. You could select a drug which acts on different pathways. Now, if we look at the drugs which decrease cardiac output, diuretics in the initial stages, later on they also decrease peripheral, and beta blockers. So you could select one drug from the strategy of decreasing cardiac output, and another drug which decreases peripheral vascular resistance. And RAS blockers, calcium channel blockers, are very powerful in decreasing peripheral vascular resistance. The second strategy could be the drugs acting on the same pathway, but they act differently. So you can have a decrease in the peripheral vascular resistance by RAS blockers and also by calcium channel blockers. And all of us know this combination, RAS blockers and calcium channel blocker, is a very effective combination and used very widely. Then you could use drugs which are acting on the same pathway by different mechanisms. For example, decrease in cardiac output, beta blocker decrease in cardiac output, diuretics in early phase also decrease cardiac output. So that could be another combination. So there could be various combinations and permutations in getting a fixed dose combination. Now, the common dual combination which are used in clinical practice, as I wrote, combination of ACI oblique ARB-CCB is a very common combination, very effective, very safe. You can combine diuretics with AC inhibitors, you can combine ARB with diuretics, or you can combine calcium channel blockers with diuretics. ACEI and ARB should not be combined. The issue is, does immediate reduction in blood pressure improves outcome? Let's look at the data. Now, this is data analysis from the VALUE trial, and you can see this is analysis of the results based on immediate response. Immediate response means the treatment results in reduction of systolic blood pressure by 10 millimeter at 1 month. And when you use this, you can see fatal and non-fatal cardiac event decreased by 12%, fatal and non-fatal stroke decreased by 17%, all caused out 10%, myocardial infarction 11%, and hospitalization for heart failure 13%. So if you control your blood pressure early, it produces fruitful results, as you can see from the analysis of the VALUE trial. The other issue is, does prompt lowering of blood pressure produces positive benefits? Again, this is a very interesting analysis from the landmark CISUR study. And the definition for prompt is defined as any treatment utilized in the first 2 years. So you can see there's a prompt versus delayed BP lowering. This prevented 17 strokes or 25 major CV events per 1,000 patients, followed for 6 years, 13% reduction in all-cause mortality, 15% reduction in CV events, and 28% reduction in stroke. Now, what percentage of patients need antihypertensive fixed dose combinations? All of us know, although the modern and effective antihypertensive drugs are available, they are potent, but most patients have a suboptimal blood control of blood pressure, and most of the hypertensive patients will need a combination therapy to reach the target goal. And if you look at the Indian statistics, 77% of patients need combination of greater than 2 antihypertensive medication. And therefore, this is a historical recommendation by the ESC and ACC that initiation of treatment in hypertension, particularly when the target is 20/10, should be with a single pill. And you can use any combination ACEI or ARB, CCB or diuretics, all these drugs are categorized as first-line drugs. If the blood pressure is not controlled, you can again use a single pill of all the three drugs. It is available commercially also. And if the blood pressure is still not controlled, the next choice falls on spironolactone. And if it is still not controlled and you have excluded all secondary causes, compliance and other issues, you can use other drugs which we do not use in our day-to-day practice. Now, beta blockers somehow have not figured as the primary therapy in most of the guidelines of the Western countries, but beta blockers are very useful. We have isolated systolic hypertension in the young. There's a lot of sympathetic stimulations. Indian hypertension have increased sympathetic stimulation. And in our day-to-day practice, we have seen that many young patients, particularly the IT professionals, they have high blood pressure, high heart rate, and their blood pressure is controlled with beta blockers and not so well with other drugs. So in the Indian context, we do use beta blockers. Beta blockers, of course, are mandatory if you have heart failure, angina, post-MI atrial fibrillation, and so on. Now, the next issue is, if you use a FDC, will it improve CV outcome in hypertensive patients? Now you can see the slide on the upper left side. Initial and subsequent combination therapy is associated with significant reduction in the risk of hospitalization for cardiovascular events. And in the lower left, you can see patients started with antihypertensive treatment with a single drug and largely remained on monotherapy because of therapeutic inertia. Hospitalization for combined and all-cause specific cardiovascular was significantly greater than those patients who were on a combination therapy. This is again a data shows that free drug combination versus fixed dose combination, and you can see FDC is associated with less prevalence of cardiovascular events compared with free drug combination, whether it is PCI, ACS, CABG, stroke, heart failure, TIA, death, or any other event. FDC is also associated with less mortality compared to multiple treatment. And this is again FDC vis-a-vis multiple. You can see the primary outcome, which is a composite of death or hospitalization for MI, HF, or stroke. There's a statistically significant 11% risk reduction. If you look at the secondary outcomes, AMI, there's only a numerical decrease, heart failure, a numerical decrease, stroke, there is no change, but death, you can see statistically 15% reduction, and incidence of drug discontinuation is also 20%, which is statistically significant. So the other issue is, how do we approach a patient who has hypertension and associated comorbidities? Now, in a patient of hypertension with CAD, our targets are 130/80, and we will use drugs like beta blockers and RAS blockers. Beta blockers are useful for CAD. They are anti-ischemic agents. They also decrease arrhythmias. RAS blockers, they will take care of LV dysfunctions, and even if the LV function is normal, they're also very useful in high-risk patients because they have anti-atherosclerotic properties. Beta blockers also have anti-atherosclerotic properties. Now, if the patient has diabetes, again, besides controlling diabetes, you have to adopt a multi-pronged approach, controlling all the risk factors like besides blood pressure, lipid control, cessation of smoking, and others. And in diabetes, again, the target is less than 130/80. And in diabetics, usually the first preference is a RAS blocker, and most of them will require multiple drugs. So we add calcium channel blockers, and diuretic indapamide may be a better drug. And simultaneous administration of ACE and ARB should not be utilized. Now, if you have a CKD, the prospects for improvement of CKD has been drastically improved during the last couple of years. The first choice has to be a RAS blocker, ACEI or ARB. And this was the first evaluation which has slowed down the trajectory of CKD and provided a few years from freedom from renal transplant. The second revolution came with SGLT2 inhibitors, and these agents on top of RAS blockers had provided additional postponement of dialysis roughly by 10 to 15 years. Both these drugs, ACE inhibitors, ARBs, or SGLT2 act through a hemodynamic approach. The RAS blockers, they produce efferent arteriolar dilatation, so the intragranular pressure is decreased, the progress of CKD is decreased, the proteinuria, and the SGLT2, they produce efferent arteriolar constriction. And we have the third revolution, which is coming with non-steroidal MRAs, the finerenone, which in the FIDELIO trial has again showed very promising results. And the beauty of this agent is the first two agents act through the hemodynamic approach. This acts through another approach that is decreases fibrosis and inflammation. So now we have three agents to postpone your dialysis by several years. And this is indeed a great achievement for patients of CKD. Now, this is the SMART CISA trial. Chylary pure agents are also very useful. If you use chylary pure amlodipine, the efficacy is same, the dose is decreased, and the side effects are less. And you can see when you use chylary pure S amlodipine 2.5 plus S metoprolol 25 on the left side of the screen, you can see the responder rates are much better, and the side effects are also much less with chylary pure antihypertensive drugs. And this is the SMART dimension study. Metoprolol in the treatment of hypertension, when you use chylary pure metoprolol, substantial reduction in blood pressure. You can see at the left side of the screen from 161 systolic, it becomes 140, and from 97, 87. And there is slight increase in the blood glucose levels. So two-drug combination is the first step, is a historical recommendation of ESC and should be increasingly utilized. The ACC also has similar recommendation, and the rationale for the initial two-drug combination therapy, greater blood pressure reduction versus monotherapy, steeper dose blood pressure relationship, no or small increase in hypertensive episodes, more frequent blood pressure control, better adherence to drug treatment, and reduced therapeutic inertia. And therefore, in summary, fixed dose combination in hypertension has come to stay. Fixed dose combination should be utilized in the treatment of hypertension as the initial therapy. First, a dual combination and blood pressure is not controlled, a triple combination. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
You are on mute.
Thank you, Dr. P.C. Manoria, sir. It was really pleasant to listen to your presentation, and the things which you explained about the need and why, when, how they have to be used was really very reflective. One question may I ask you, sir, one simple question. You said that prompt reduction is better than the delayed reduction. Now, as a practitioner, as a medical practitioner, we always come with this problem that whenever a patient comes for the first time, is diagnosed in our clinic, then we have to confirm daily whether he really is hypertensive. We have to check him regularly for a few days, and then we start the treatment. And then gradually we have to introduce. So in such cases, how promptly we should control, and what is the limit of the prompt treatment, prompt reduction, and a delayed reduction? Sir, unmute yourself, sir.
At the diabetologists, what they do, they have now adopted time in range. 70% of the time your glycemic. But somehow this concept has not so much percolated amongst the cardiologists. The definition for controlled blood pressure is you have to determine the BP load by ambulatory blood pressure monitoring. If your BP load is more than 70 times is under control, this is reasonable. But if it exceeds the uncontrolled limit, uncontrolled blood pressure exceeds more than 30%, you require to change your therapy or produce enhancement in the therapy. So that is the criteria, and this should be achieved within a spell of 2 to 3 weeks or 4 weeks. And Like LDL also, we are having the same concept. It is not merely one single reading which is a determinant of the change in the outcome. How sustained it is there. So diabetologists use time and range. We use blood pressure load. And now for LDL also, they are trying to have some adaptive as to for how long your LDL level have been controlled in the long run. Suppose you have LDL level controlled for 6 hours, next 18 hours is not controlled. The benefits is early to start, sustained effect, and maintain it is the way to decrease, to improve the CV outcomes of these patients. So the hypertension BP load is an emerging concept, just as time and ranges for diabetics.
Yeah. Thank you very much, sir. That was a really.
Sir, there is one question.
Yeah.
There is one question. Sorry to interrupt you, sir.
Yes.
There is one question from Padma Gulati. That is how prompt we should be in the hypertensive emergency. And also there is one question from Dr. Rishabh Agarwal. Which combination should be avoided in hypertension?
See, if you are using a combination therapy in hypertension, you should not use AC inhibitors and ARBs because they may produce hyperkalemia. You should not use concurrently AC inhibitors, ARBs and MRAs because their risk of hyperkalemia would be increased. But now with the availability of Petromar or sodium zirconium in times to come, they are also going to be available in India. We may be using these combinations, particularly in patients with HFrEF, where they provide immense benefit. And because of hyperkalemia, you have to cut down this therapy or maybe to stop it. Then beta blockers and non-dihydropyridine calcium channel blocker, verapamil should not be combined because they may result in profound bradycardia. And beta blockers and thiazide diuretics in diabetics preferably avoided. Beta blockers like metoprolol or atenolol because they are diabetogenic, and beta blockers with clonidine, they can result in bradycardia. So these are some few drugs we should try to avoid in combination. What was the first question?
Sir, the first question was how prompt we should be in hypertension. Promptness in
if see hypertension crisis means your blood pressure is 180 by oblique 120. Now, if you have a target organ damage, it becomes an emergency. You have to lower your blood pressure promptly. If there's no target organ, you may take 24 hours, slowly bring down the pressure. But if it is an emergency like acute left ventricle failure, dissections, even eclampsia and other, you have to lower it blood pressure quickly. So it depends on the target organ damage, then it becomes an emergency. Otherwise, it is an urgency, you can take time. But emergency, you have to lower it promptly.
There is a question on comment on fixed dose combination in pregnancy.
In pregnancy, the drugs which are used are labetalol, calcium channel blockers. We don't have any large trial of fixed dose combination, but these drugs can be combined. Diuretics cannot be used, RAS blockers cannot be. Hello?
Yes, sir, you can continue.
RAS blockers cannot be used for obvious reasons. Diuretics, the obstetrician do not like. The choice is only calcium channel blockers, and labetalol you can use. M-DOPA can also be used, but is usually not available at the present state of time. You can also use hydralazine, but these are the drugs which are no trial of fixed dose, but what you can easily combine labetalol plus calcium channel blocker.
Okay, thank you, sir. There is one more question from Dr. Rishabh Agarwal. That is why mortality in controlled hypertension is two times higher as compared to the normotensive.
Yes. Now it is very important to realize that if you are a hypertensive, your blood pressure is brought to normotensive level, your mortality is not at par with a normotensive individual. Just like a diabetic, you control your glycemic control, your CV risk is not at par to a non-diabetic. And there are several reasons. One of the important reasons is that atherosclerosis complications may continue unabated even when your blood pressure is controlled. The second reason is fibrosis occurs in different parts of the conduction system, even if your blood pressure is controlled, particularly of your delayed treatment. Fibrosis in the myocardium occurs, which makes the ventricle more prone for sudden cardiac death, more prone for heart failure, and all fibroses are easily visualized by LGECMR. Fibrosis occurs in the left atrium, which makes the patient prone for atrial fibrillation. Fibrosis occurs in the aorta, which produces isolated systolic hypertension. And what is important to realize is that the treatment of hypertension with drugs, antihypertensives, only control hypertensive related complications. If you control your blood pressure, you will not have hypertensive encephalopathy, cerebral hemorrhage, left ventricle failure, dissection. They do not provide any protection against atherosclerotic complication. And as was elegantly shown by Dr. Annapurna, the HOPE-3 trial. HOPE-3 trial, when you use only antihypertensive drugs, it did not decrease cardiovascular death, MI, or stroke. Moment you had 10 milligram rosuvastatin, it 24% reduction in MI, stroke, clearly indicating that mere control of blood pressure decreases BP-related complication, not the atherosclerosis. Another interesting trial was ASCOT-LLA. If you remember, blood cholesterol was less than 250. 10 milligram atorvastatin produces significant reduction in non-fatal and fatal MI. So that should be remembered, and there are other reasons. If you start your treatment late, if you start your treatment very late, irreversible changes occur in the arterioles will not get dilated even to the direct vasodilating drug, and your blood pressure will not be controlled.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am, there is one question which is asked to you. What is the BP target in diabetic patients with postural hypertension? In absence of ABPM, what is the time of recording BP at night to label it as nocturnal hypertension? That is pre or BP checked at the VRs between 3 to 5. I think they're asking
there are two different questions. Yeah. There are two different questions.
Yeah, there are two different questions, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am, you can ask it. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, please go ahead and ask me question, ma'am.
Dr. Padma, you can ask it.
Yeah. So thank you very much for a very comprehensive presentation, Dr. Annapurna. And I just wanted to know what is the BP target in diabetic patients with postural hypotension. And as it's quite common in diabetic patients, patients come with because of autonomic neuropathy and all, and they have postural giddiness. So what should be the BP target? How do we manage such patients? Should we consider the sitting blood pressure, or should we take into account the standing blood pressure for targeting the blood pressure?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Padma. It's a very nice, very important practical question. Now, first of all, we need to understand that diabetic patients, definitely many of them have autonomic neuropathy, so they may have orthostatic hypotension, what you're talking about, postural hypotension. So what is most important, that you need to know what is the baseline blood pressure of this patient. So you get the ambulatory BP monitoring for this patient, number one. Number two, then you'll come to know about the average blood pressure. If the average blood pressure is high, you start the treatment. If the patient has got symptoms of postural hypotension or orthostatic hypotension, then do not give or withdraw diuretics, because whenever the intravascular volume in these patients with autonomic neuropathy is low, then patients will get more accentuated hypotension. So they will be more symptomatic, giddiness will be more. And if the patient has got usually, most importantly, you avoid diuretics, ask them to drink plenty of water, though not salt, but fluids should be taken. Adequate fluid intake is what you need to do. Then definitely, as far as the BP goals are concerned, they are not higher for these patients. Again, they remain as 130/80, even if it is a diabetic. It is important that which drugs do you give. You give a longer acting drug, you give not very, potent drug. You can give telmisartan, you can give olmesartans, or ACE inhibitors which act over 24 hours and which do not cause significant and sudden hypotension. Avoid giving moxonidine or alpha blockers to these patients, because alpha blockers, if you give them prazopressine, etc., then they will have more accentuated. So avoid certain drugs which cause significant or sudden blood pressure lowering effects. And preferably start with single drug, and if you require, you can step up it to this, double drug. But then usually you will not get a patient who has got 160/100 blood pressure in lying down who requires fixed drug combination, and standing his blood pressure would drop to 90. Usually they are the borderline cases wherein the blood pressure will be 140/90, and then when they get up, maybe there is more than 20 millimeters of mercury drop in the blood pressure. So avoid alpha blockers, avoid beta blockers with alpha blocker activities like carvedilol, etc. Do not opt for those drugs, and avoid alpha blockers purely, and ask the patient to drink plenty of water. So keep the intravascular volume good. That is what I would suggest.
Okay, in places like I'm based in Jhansi, and in places where facility of ABPM is not available, and we do come across such patients, diabetic patients with hypertension, with postural or orthostatic hypotension, and such patients are also having CKD. So how do we manage such patients in case we have to put them on diuretics? How should we, are there any guidelines to monitor such patients?
No. The guidelines are home BP monitoring is also another thing you can ask the patient. Simple home BP monitoring is also excellent tool when you don't have ambulatory BP. You can ask the patient to monitor his blood pressure at least 4 hour, or if the patient is extremely asymptomatic, maybe 2 hourly interval, and ask him to get the blood pressure charting to you. Then you can precisely say that there is an early morning surge, or there is a late evening surge, or there is a night surge. Because if the patient has got reverse dipping pattern, that is the nighttime blood pressure is higher, then you need to upgrade or increase the evening dose of antihypertensive drugs. If the early morning blood pressure is high, then you need to give the morning blood pressure antihypertensive drugs more. So it will help you if you do the home monitoring of the blood pressure. You can educate the patients, because otherwise there is no way to find out if the blood pressure is controlled. And secondly, whenever the patient gets giddiness, ask him to check the blood pressure, because many of these patients have got vertigo, and then they blame it to the antihypertensive pill, and that time you see the blood pressure is on the contrary high. So you have to be dead sure that it is because of the orthostatic hypotension that this patient is symptomatic, and not because of some other reason. So these are the things which are very important to do. You can ask him to do the home monitoring of the blood pressure.
So in such patients who have, like nocturnal hypertension or reverse dipping, or if they have, so in such patients, do we still have to go in for a fixed drug combination, or should we split the antihypertensive medication, like giving one pill, one drug in the morning and one drug in the evening?
No, it depends, madam. The thing is, if you have got reverse dipping pattern, but if your daytime blood pressure is normal, then still if the blood pressure is very high, then you have to give fixed drug combination. Fixed drug combination is irrespective of your nocturnal reverse dipping pattern. Then only thing is you need to, give the dosage in the evening. There are so many patients of mine who are on evening, like 8 o'clock, I'm giving them amlodipine and, telmisartan fixed drug combination, and they do very well. Their early morning surge is not there, and the night blood pressure is controlled. But you have to demonstrate the, reverse dipping pattern on ambulatory BP monitoring. Otherwise, do not go by the, the words of the patient that my BP is high in the night and not. Usual pattern is, because reverse dipping is seen only in 10% of the entire population. Usually normal dipping is in 40% of the patients, non-dippers are 50% of the patients, reverse dipping is only in 10% of the patients. So be more precise and give dosages in the evening, 5 o'clock onwards, 5 p.m. onwards. Dr. Manoria, sir, would you like to say anything more to this?
I think this is a very tricky situation. If you have a postural hypotension when he gets up and performs his daily activity, currently we have mineralocorticoids available as Vidodrive, which is used and which produces quite good results in patients who have postural hypotension. If postural hypotension still continues, of course, you would avoid drugs like diuretic, as you have mentioned, alpha blockers and even RAS blockers. But if the postural hypotension continues, he has hypertension during the night, hypotension during the day, what we do is when he sleeps, we use a short-acting drug which controls his blood pressure during the night, so that by the time he gets up, the action of the drug disappears. And then When he walks, the blood pressure automatically comes down, and we adopt the elastic stockings and midodrive drugs to avoid postural hypertension. But if the postural hypertension is very severe, this is a very tricky situation. The last resort remains that patient is put on a wheelchair. Otherwise, he may have a syncope and he may fall down. So these are the stage, but this is a very tricky situation.
But it is very rare, I think so. We haven't seen it in my
Patients
practice.
of diabetes who have autonomic neuropathy, they are the victims of this. And in autonomic neuropathy, you cannot use diuretics, you cannot use RAS blockers, they will aggravate this. You can
Yes.
use calcium channel blockers, particularly the chiral pure, otherwise they will produce edema or the new. And therefore, the idea is to control blood pressure only during the night and leave it for the morning, so that when he gets up, usually blood pressure will not be. But if the hypertension is still persistent despite midodrive, he has to be put on a wheelchair till his things disappear. And autonomic neuropathy, if it is due to some secondary cause, you should look after that.
You need to
This is a
treat
tricky
the secondary
situation.
cause. Yes.
Tricky
Thank
situation,
you.
very
Sir.
tricky.
Thank you. One last question, sir. In absence of ABPM, like, I said we don't have it in a city. What is the best time of recording the blood pressure at night to label it as nocturnal hypertension? Is it the pre-sleep blood pressure, like within an hour before the
During
patient goes to
sleep. No. It has to be monitored during sleep, every hour during sleep.
or is it the morning time, between 3 and 5 a.m.? You attend the
That-
patient.
That is for morning surge. It has to be a midnight blood pressure, but with home blood pressure monitoring, you cannot, because if you record the
Very
blood
difficult.
pressure, patient will get up and it will be nocturnal, but it will not be nocturnal. It will be awake
Yes,
blood pressure.
Awake blood pressure, yes.
So I think
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Abhishek, we would stop here. It's already
Sir,
8:30.
just one question,
Yeah.
one last question. If it is, because it seems an important question, that is why beta blockers are diabetogenic, and sorry, which beta blockers are diabetogenic and which are not?
Atenolol and metoprolol are diabetogenic. Carvedilol, nebivolol, and bisoprolol are not. So if you want to use a beta blocker in diabetic, do not use atenolol, do not use metoprolol. You can use nebivolol is very good. You can use bisoprolol, and carvedilol, if the patient's upset permits, you can also use.
Basically cardioselective more.
Cardioselective.
Bisoprolol it doesn't
Bisoprolol is
interfere
great,
with
great.
glycemic
Oh.
control.
We should conclude this.
Yes, sir. You can conclude, and
Yeah.
Sachin, then
We
you
can
can say
definitely
the thank you.
conclude this
Yes, sir.
session here. So we are really thankful to Dr. P.C. Manoria, the eminent cardiologist of India, and of course Dr. Annapurna Kalia, who is of course a very well-known and upcoming cardiologist in Pune and Maharashtra. It was really an excellent session at proper time. Both of these speakers gave pretty important and basic enlightening on this topic. And on the World Hypertension Day, I really congratulate MQR Pharma for their timely subject and timely this CME on this topic. We hope that you will be definitely rather presenting these type of workshops as well as the lectures for all the practicing doctors in Maharashtra state as well as in India. Thank you very much, and wish you all a safe World Hypertension Day.
Thank you.
Dr.
Sir,
Avinash,
it
Dr.
is-
Annapurna, hoping to see you in person sometime.
Yes, sir,
After COVID.
definitely. I'm also looking forward to see you.
In fact, Dr. Avinash, it is your goodness to thank us or anybody else, but around 10 days back, this journey began when I, along with few of my colleagues, came and proposed this particular meeting to you. We, on behalf of entire MQR corporate, are thankful to you for immediately accepting it and helping us for facilitating this particular meeting. Rest all, I would like to thank all you three doctors, rather all the doctors available here, for taking care of the society on behalf of this particular, on the eve of this particular hypertension day. Because without our doctor, no hypertension could have got control, no patient could have got a healthy life. Thank you very much for taking care of entire society, and thanks a lot for being here for this wonderful evening. Thank you very much, Dr. Annapurna. Thank you very much, Dr. Manoria. Abhishek, over to you.
Yeah. So we'll call it a day now. Thanks a lot for your active participation. And as Dr. Manoria told, he just said, and we all want that to happen. We want to see every one of you in person, and let's hope that happens.
Thank you,
Thank you, sir. Thank you,
Bombay, sir.
everyone.
Thank you, Manoria,
Thank you.
sir. Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Thank you, team MCure. Thank you, Sachin. Thank you, Abhishek.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank